You're watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Hello, and welcome to this special edition of Crosstalk. I'm your host, Reyna Katko. The mission of the Shelby County Sheriff's Office is to protect the property and lives of Shelby County citizens. But how are those deputies trained? This week, we'll explore the hard work, dedication, and training it takes to be a deputy. I sat down with Mark Kellerhall, Chief of Training for the Shelby County Sheriff's Office Training Academy. Chief Kellerhall, thank you so much for allowing us into the Academy.
Glad to have you. Welcome.
Before we go into an overview of the Academy, tell us, what makes a good recruit?
The makings of a good recruit, that's probably a question that a lot of people ask of themselves when they sign up to become a Sheriff's Deputy recruit. The application process starts several months outside of a class. We try to recruit both locally and regionally. We try to pick a variety of people that reach, I guess, a vast majority of people from this community. People of all ethnic makeups and everything else that represent Memphis and Shelby County as we know it. The application process can be a tedious one. A lot of people who are already currently working find it hard to take the time off to come in for the different tests and the psychologicals and stuff like that. But we try to remind them that if this is where you want to be, this is where you want to go, and this is what you in your heart want to do, then you can do anything. Anything's possible. Well, what makes a good recruit? Dedication, respect for yourself and for others, and the ability to be able to work with people in a variety of circumstances, a lot of which can be very problematic, very emotional, and very hard to deal with sometimes.
How do you recruit?
We have a couple of three different things we do with our recruiting. We just recently this year stepped up and formed our own recruiting and retention team. That's a separate division within the Sheriff's Office. And their sole purpose is nothing but retention and recruiting people. We had some people the last 2 or 3 days that were actually outside of Shelby County and other jurisdictions that were recruiting people, young people from other like colleges, from outside of Memphis, which if you pay attention to the local news media, a lot of agencies from outside of Memphis have been doing here. Houston, Little Rock, Texas authorities have been doing the same thing for some time. So we figured if it's working for them, then maybe it's something we need to visit. So we started doing that too.
You talked about an ideal candidate, but what are some of the requirements to get into the training academy?
Requirements. You must be at least 21 years of age, no criminal background that has not been expunged, any felonious charges that can't be expunged. Those won't be accepted by the Post Commission, and we try to keep our standards in line with the Post Commission mandates. High school diploma or an equivalency, GED. We would love to have more people who have college, because we are a firm believer in continuing one's education and for professional and personal growth and development. Pass the agility test, the onslaught of the agility test, of course the psychological, drug, and physical requirements.
There are 3 different types of training courses that you can take at this academy. Can you go into detail about each of the different paths that you can take?
Sure, be glad to. The first I can go into, of course, is my pride and joy, is the law enforcement, which represents the Shelby County Sheriff's Office commission personnel. And that's almost over 800 deputy sheriffs within the Shelby County Sheriff's Office, is what we do year-round. Those are for the commission officers. The guys that are dressed like me that wear this uniform. The men and women who are actually the ones responsible for calls for service in the field. They work the courts, they work fugitive, they work task forces, narcotics, traffic enforcement. So that's, I won't say it's the backbone, but that's what everybody sees the Sheriff's Department. First thing you think about is the deputy sheriff. The second aspect that's a large part of our training perspective here is the jail, our correction deputies. Those are the men and women. They wear a little different uniform. Their job, where we say a lot of times, is putting them in behind the bars. It's their job to maintain the security and the level of certain levels of effectiveness behind the bars once a person has been placed in custody and at 201 Poplar Avenue. So that's their job, which within itself is a very emotional driven job, because you're actually locked in there for 8+ hours with almost 2,000 inmates, or sometimes we're at capacity of 2,000 or more inmates, and that's 5, 6, 7 days a week. So it can present its own problems itself. The third level of training that we provide here at the Academy that we work in relationship with is for the Shelby County Department of Corrections. That's the penal form. They're another aspect of the Shelby County government. They're here in this academy, and we provide liaisons for additional training formats. We help them train, they help us train. We're not so much directly involved with their day-to-day operations. It's more of a mutual support element.
How do you ensure that deputies in training are getting the best training possible?
We strive at the Academy to make sure, number one, that we are in total compliance with post mandates, CALEA mandates, TCI mandates for the jail, ACA, which is American Correctional Association mandates. It's kind of a golden rule, if you can think of a bubble, and you have to work within that bubble. Well, what that does, it gives us certain guidelines that we follow. But we also, more importantly, have policy procedures for Shelby County government and the Sheriff's Office that we also adhere to. So that kind of just concretes it and solidifies what we do here. And people, when they come to the Academy here as a recruit, if they cannot work inside that, not everybody's wired to be a law enforcement or corrections officer, and we understand that. But more importantly, we try to structure the individual on the front end, the initial onslaught of their training, to, number one, challenge them and see if that's the job they want to do, and number two, if that's going to be a right fit for us.
On average, what are the sizes of the classes, and do you find them easy or hard to fill?
Recruitment is becoming very hard. We are in a society today where I think law enforcement oriented first responders are scrutinized a lot more about what they do day in and day out and how we do our jobs. So a lot of people that at one point may have thought about being in law enforcement may be reconsidering something else now, a different job change. So recruiting on that level is becoming a little bit harder. Number two, we are competing with other agencies in this area. It's kind of like the SEC. We're competing with everybody else. And then we've got people from the outside, from Texas, Alabama, Nashville, Kentucky, Missouri coming here trying to recruit people. So we have to really kind of up our game a little bit to make it more appealing for our people to come here, and also expecting others to come from somewhere else here to join our team. We try to make that more competitive with the pay. That's a big thing, pay, benefits, and stuff like that. So we're pretty competitive.
Mr. Kellerhall, thank you so much for allowing us here and for all that you do.
Well, thank you. Thank you guys for having an interest in what we do, and the Academy belongs to everybody in Shelby County, so I offer anybody that's ever interested in what we do to come out sometime, ask us. Be glad to show them around.
Stay with us. When we come back, we'll dive deeper into the training classes.
We're running a 24-hour broadcast television station like no other school has done.
It is student run, it's student produced, it is student written, and it's student directed.
Here's to another 35 more years.
Students here get immersed in lots of different types of shows so that when they go out into the real world or to college, if this is what they want to pursue, they are so prepared.
Those lessons have also affected me in the ways that I would never even imagine.
It has shown me to be different and to, not settle for mediocrity. When you're producing a show, you want your show to be the best one it can be. You want it to be, a show to remember, a show that you want to look back on and say, I did that.
Yes, I did do this. Did I believe that I could do this? No, but because of all the support that I gained, I know that I can actually get this done.
I know that the skills I've learned here is something I'm never going to forget, and same with the experiences here.
From all of us here at GHS-TV, have a great day.
Art is really an expression of the self. If you look at a piece of art, you can see the artist within it.
All just really depends on what I feel like doing at the time. I generally have different ideas every day.
I really
get excited when my students come up to me with unique ideas that I've not heard of.
You can't let everybody tell you who you are or what your art is or how to be what you want to be.
I really let the students go according to how they're progressing, and I try to give them as much as they're able to handle.
Well, I like drawing a lot, and I like painting, and I like being able to improve my skill and show people my art.
I try to get them to think creatively. I think that's one of the few things that we as teachers really need to try to push with our students.
I can't sing. I can't act either, but I can do art, so that's why I chose art.
For more information about the Kappa program, visit ghskappa.com or call 755-7775. You're watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Welcome back to Crosstalk. Let's continue our discussion of the Shelby County Sheriff's Office Training Academy. Joining us now are Sergeant Fox and Sergeant Morris, instructors at the Academy. Thank you both so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate you being considered.
Sergeant Fox, with everything you have to teach your trainees, I'm sure you hit the ground running on the first day. What do you teach them in the first week?
Well, the first week we kind of overwhelmed them because we want to try to weed out the ones that don't have the heart or the ones that actually follow through to do the duration of the 6-month academy they're going to have to go through. So with that, we come in physically, we want to make sure they're fit, so we physically push them to the limits that they can actually handle. Then we overwhelm them mentally on trying to give them a bunch of required knowledge that they have to understand, and all these things will aid them as they go through the academy to make sure they can actually make it.
And Sergeant Morris, what does the first week of your class look like?
Pretty much the same thing. Sometimes when they come in, we have to tear them down to build them up, and that's not a bad thing. What we do is we challenge them daily, mentally and physically, so they can be successful in the workplace. We want to take the characteristics that we give them here so they can take them to the workplace and, like I said, be successful.
What are some of the more important skills that your trainees learn from you and your class?
Well, some of the most important things are being able to defend themselves in the workplace. Pressure point control tactics, things of that nature, and just a wealth of knowledge so they'll know what they're doing. Because if you don't know what you're doing, you got to learn those policies and procedures and implement them in the workplace when you get down there.
Sergeant Fox, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, pretty much what we're trying to do is we're trying to get people out of the civilian mindset. What I mean by that is generally the job that they're looking at doing as a law enforcement officer is not that of any other job that you're going to pursue in the civilian workplace. When you have shots fired or you hear or something where people are screaming for help, generally most people, especially if shots are fired, are going to run away from that. And so we have to try to tear that down in somebody's code of running away from that and actually instill in them to actually turn around and pursue whatever it is where the shots are coming from, go find out where it is and try to assist or eliminate whatever that threat may be.
What is the physical assessment test and what's its importance?
The physical assessment test is the baseline test that we use to try to see where our recruits are physically. Each one has a minimum standard. What we test them on is the physical agility, which consists of push-ups, sit-ups, a mile and a half run, a 300-yard sprint, chin-ups, the broad jump, and a 185-pound deadlift dummy that they have to drag for over 110 feet. All these are there's minimum standards set to that they're going to have to be able to endure or to be able to complete to make sure they can handle the physical aspects of this job.
Sergeant Morris, being a deputy is not easy. Can you talk about what it takes both mentally and physically?
You always have to be on the top of your game. Every day you got to be seeking to get better mentally to do your job better. Physically, you always want to be in shape, especially when you're working around criminals inside of a jail that you see on the news every night, killers, robbers, rapers. They're in a jail setting and they have nothing but time to think about your weaknesses, to break you down, to make you do something stupid or to hurt you.
If you don't want to look at me, look at the screen, but look forward.
In your mind, what does an ideal candidate to be a deputy look like?
It's not a look. It has to be in you. The characteristics you portray when you come to the academy, we'll know it off the top. I mean, we can look at you by your actions, how you perform every day. If you're not giving 110%, I mean, you're not cut out for this.
Sergeant Fox, what are some of the types of training that the trainees go through to prepare them for the real world situations?
Well, here at the Academy, we give them what's called a baseline understanding or baseline training of law enforcement. Most of the in-depth training they're going to get is when they get in the field and enter the FTO program and actually start doing hands-on training in the community. But here what they're going to get is they're going to learn how to do defensive driving, offensive driving when it comes to emergency vehicle operations and their driving. They're going to learn defensive tactics. We're going to teach them how to fight on their feet, teach them how to use non-lethal weapons, which consist of their baton, chemical agent. We're also going to teach them how to fight on the ground with our jiu-jitsu tactics, and then we're going to go into teaching them firearms. Out of all the academies, we're probably one of the longest with 200 hours worth of firearms training because it's one of the most important aspects of law enforcement. If you do have to use deadly force, we want to make sure that you're going to hit the intended target and not endanger the public. So they're going to go through that, and then they're going to go into their physical-based training where they're going to have to meet the minimum standard of our physical training to complete that. We have 11 weeks of training, more so the physical aspect and the mental aspect. We have academics and the physical aspect. Those are the two things we work on in the jail division or whatever. Going into an aggressive environment every day, we need to give them the tools they need because I say when you go in there, you're locked in with criminals. It's not a walk in the park, you're in a criminal environment. People that you see, like I said, on the news every night that's going to jail, men and women supervise these guys 24 hours a day.
You mentioned that your courses are 11 weeks in length, correct? The courses vary in length based on different weeks and stuff. Why is that?
Well, it just depends on the scheduling. We try to make our schedule fit the need. When they first get there, they need direct supervision. The direct supervision meaning they're inside of the housing unit and they have to be able to go in and perform and be successful and do their duties or whatever. Then on-the-job training comes next. You have to go in the environment, sit with the officer, and see the environment. And then when they come back, we ask questions. What do you think? Do you think this is for you? Things of that nature. And then, like I said, we go on in another schedule, and PPCT comes up. They have to get gas training, sprayed, and things like that, or whatever. So that's pretty much in a nutshell, leading on up until graduation.
Does the variation in length of courses have anything to do with the route of training you take in the 3 different areas that are offered?
No. I mean, like I said, everything is put on their schedule for a reason. I mean, you have specifics or whatever, and when it's time to teach it, we just go all in.
Sergeant Fox, there has been a lot of controversy around police involvement in shootings. How is the Academy and how are you and Sergeant Morris working on solving this issue?
Well, every time something comes up, anytime an officer has to use deadly force, then yes, at the Academy we're gonna look into that. Did they follow policy and procedure? Did they exercise whatever force or whatever less lethal force that they could have, or was it actually a deadly force situation they had to pursue? In that case, again, it's not always either in our agency. It may be agencies outside of our state, outside of our county. We look to see how they handle it, and then we put ourselves in that situation and see if we handle it the same way. If we ask ourselves the question, we say, no, we wouldn't have done it that way, or we said, yeah, we would have handled it that way. However, looking at it now, we possibly could have handled it a different way. Then what we'll do is that will allow us to readdress our training and try to either contour our training to actually address it so that our next recruits that come out are better trained. And then as the other officers, in Tennessee, we all have 40 hours of in-service training, continuing education training that officers must continue to do every year. So when they come back to us, all the other officers that have already had basic training coming through the Academy will return to us for those 40 hours, and then we'll address those issues with them as well to make sure that they have the best training possible.
Thank you both so much for joining me today, and good luck with your current trainees.
Appreciate your time.
Stay tuned. When we come back, we'll hear directly from 2 of the current recruits.
This place, it's extremely unique.
You are pushed to do things that you didn't know you could do because someone else saw it in you.
If you're with us for your whole 4 years here at GHS, you get a great foundation of amazing classes.
Try the priest.
The approach we take to whether it's the fall play or the spring musical is that the students are truly the ones that are making the magic happen.
Tell all the people. You put the work in off and on stage. Not only are you on stage acting and playing a part, you're working, you're
pricking your fingers, sewing the costumes. You're learning how to make exotic makeup designs. You're learning how to build the set that you're going to be planted on.
And as you grow with us within the program, your skills continue to develop, and we build off your previous knowledge. And hopefully by the time you graduate, you're a well-rounded professional in a way, and you can move into any area that you'd like after high school and succeed.
Every day is different, you know? Every day is a new piece of music.
1 5 1 5 3 5 2 5 1 5
It's a large program. We have 3 full choral ensembles, a women's chorus, chorale, which is about 55 students, and our chamber choir, which is about 18.
There have been lots of opportunities to audition, which have encouraged me to be more confident with myself and really put myself out there.
I really enjoyed my time being in choir, especially here at Germantown, because I feel like there's something special about this particular school.
I like them to walk into my room and feel as though they are free to experiment with sounds.
How beautiful can you make German? That's the challenge.
We always say that we're a school of excellence, and I feel that that really shows like in performances, because we're all so focused in trying to reach our goals.
For more information about the Kappa program, visit GHS-Kappa.com or call 755-7775. You're watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Welcome back to Crosstalk. I'm your host, Reyna Katko. With classes varying in length, training is very rigorous. Here to discuss their hands-on experiences at the Academy are trainees Brunson and Davidson. Thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Deciding to be a deputy is a huge decision. What made you decide to be here?
I wanted to be here because I am in the National Guard as an MP, and so this would be me furthering my career as a law enforcement officer.
Davidson, why did you choose to be a deputy?
Well, I'm also prior military, and I spent a good bit in search and rescue units and medical evacuation. And with that, I wanted to further myself as helping the community and other people.
You're both in the law enforcement track. Davidson, why did you choose this specific track?
Well, the reason I chose this specific track is because I talked with friends that I have in law enforcement, both in Memphis and in Shelby County, and I felt that I fit in better with the responsibilities of the Shelby County Sheriff's Office.
What do you hope to gain from this experience?
I hope to gain more experience in dealing with the public, dealing with different adversities that we face now in our social economy or whatever, and to better myself as a person.
Mr. Davidson, can you talk about your experiences here at the Academy?
Well, we go through a lot of different experiences here. You go through highs and lows. So you have your educational, so we have classroom. We also have hands-on training, everything from martial arts, jiu-jitsu, boxing, but we also do your day-to-day policing as far as arrests, traffic stops. We go through, and like one of the things that you do in your first week is you have a fight for life. And you also get sprayed with pepper spray. You do a few activities, and then you actually are in a ditch and you're rolling around with punching bags in a ditch full of water as they're coming by and spraying you with pepper spray as well while you're doing that. That's just, it is something that you have to have the heart to be able to push yourself through. You have to have the heart to want to do it.
Is this academy and training all that you expected?
Oh, yes, ma'am, and more. After all my years of military training, I'm still learning so much from this academy.
Ms. Brunson, he described the first week, but can you go more into detail?
Okay. After we did Fight for Life, you get sprayed or whatever. We did the EVOC course, which is what's it called? Emergency vehicle operations, where you drive a course in a certain amount of time. You complete different tasks such as parallel parking, driving backwards, and things of that sort. Also, we have done boxing, where we fight each other for a certain amount of time to see the different tactics that we have learned and put them into perspective. You also learn how to properly handcuff a person as well.
What are some of the final exams at the end of your training?
Some of the final, it's going to be a physical fitness exam. You have your academics exam, which is over your basic laws, different procedures, policies. You need to know basic stuff like that.
Mr. Davidson, what does your family think of you becoming a deputy?
Well, my family is 100% behind me. My wife is also prior military, so she completely understands what it takes because being a deputy is not just a job. You don't, when you leave, you're just not at work anymore. It is a lifestyle change to be a deputy.
And Ms. Brunson?
My family has always been supportive. I am a single mom, so my mom is my biggest support system. And of course, my son, he already wants to be a police officer.
What are some of the components of the physical agility and physical ability test?
You have to do push-ups, a minimum of 30, sit-ups. You have to also be able to run 1.5 miles within 15 minutes and 30 seconds. Also, you have to run a 300 meter sprint within a certain amount of time, and you also have to do pull-ups.
You're now 16 weeks into your training. What do you think has been the hardest part?
The hardest part would have to be the first week, which is everybody adjusting to everyone, and also getting pepper spray for me would be my second time, so it was really hard.
Mr. Davidson, what do you think you're looking forward to the most after you graduate?
Well, after we graduate, we have a 9-week training period that we do on the streets, and I really think that that's going to be a good learning experience, taking what you learned here and actually applying it on the streets.
Ms. Brunson?
For me, it's going to be the same thing. Being one-man certified and actually being able to ride in the patrol car by yourself and do different tasks day to day, it's be good to put everything that we've learned into perspective.
And finally, for someone who's considering being in law enforcement, what would you tell them?
I would tell them if they really want to do this, that they need to give it 100% every day. No matter what you went through the next day, always take the next step and wake up to a new day and be ready to learn and take on that day again.
Mr. Davidson?
That's pretty much it. You live that day at a time. When that day is over, it's a new day starting. So just keep pushing through and never give up.
This has been a great conversation, and good luck on the rest of your training.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank my guests for sharing their knowledge and stories about the Shelby County Sheriff's Office Training Academy. With so many recruits being produced annually, Shelby County as a whole is a lot safer. I'm Reyna Katko. From all of us here at GHS-TV, thanks for watching Crosstalk, and I hope to see you again.